We are reaching a decisive moment in the struggle for freedom in Cuba.
Today, there's one superpower. It's the United States of America. Not only is it the superpower of the world, it is the moral reserve and reservoir of the world. And there's absolutely no reason why 90 miles from our shores we cannot give hope and concrete assistance to the people that for 35 years have been languishing under torture.
Cuba was recently listed by Freedom House as one of the top 10 worst human rights records on the planet Earth.
Freedom House lists them among the 10 worst human rights abusers in the world.
There is torture going on. The people are being sent to psychiatric prisons as they were in the Soviet Union. This is the last bastion of Stalinism almost on the face of the earth.
The reason that there is an embargo today is because it can help the Cuban people. And the reason that the Torricelli bill is good legislation is because it can open the door to the Cuban people at the same time it closes the door.
President Clinton should encourage and actively lobby for the international community to cut off all of its commercial ties with Cuba and instead implement an international embargo against the thugs who rule the island.
Why should the United States let up the pressure now? It's time to tighten the screws, not to loosen them.
This embargo is an act of war, and until we reduce our hostility, we're not going to get anywhere.
Pero no es porque Cuba lo sostenga. Han sido los propios políticos norteamericanos los que en los debates en el Congreso han dicho que el bloqueo hay que mantenerlo para socavar al pueblo cubano desde abajo, provocar un levantamiento contra el gobierno y que esa sublevación tumbe al gobierno. Eso no es embargo, eso es bloqueo.
Que no, a nosotros nadie nos va a invertir nuestra idea revolucionaria. Nosotros somos cubanos.
What they're trying to do in Cuba with this blockade and the use of hunger as a tool against the whole Cuban population is bring about a civil war.
Pero nosotros estamos conscientes que lo que nos tienen el bloqueo a nosotros aquí son los norteamericanos. Pero ellos deben de estar conscientes y convencidos que no pueden ponerle el bloqueo que ellos entiendan, lo que ellos quieran, que nosotros vamos a seguir adelante. Somos unidos, vamos a seguir desarrollando el país, vamos a seguir haciendo obras, vamos a seguir haciendo escuelas, vamos a seguir haciendo para que nuestro país siga adelante. En que ellos no nos quiten el bloqueo, nosotros vamos a tratar todos los medios por quitarnos el bloqueo.
Ellos quieren implantar su sistema aquí. Y yo entiendo que cada pueblo tiene que tener su sistema propio, su criterio propio, su derecho de expresar su sentimiento y su forma de gobernar, no lo que quiera nadie.
Así mismo es.
Sea bueno, sea malo, pero un criterio propio de cada cual.
No quieren que nosotros sigamos el régimen que llevamos, que seamos revolucionarios, que seamos cubanos. Y nosotros queremos esto, aunque sea
lo que uno quiera, no lo que quiera nadie.
¿Te das cuenta? Y que ese daño es al pueblo de Cuba. Nosotros queremos que se mantenga el gobierno o por lo menos que hayan transformaciones genuinas, ¿te das cuenta? Pero no, ese hostigamiento que hemos tenido tanto tiempo, siempre lo hemos tenido arriba de nosotros. Nosotros incluso queremos, no sé, aquí se hacen siempre elecciones, año por año. Pero bueno, independientemente de eso, tenemos un hostigamiento constante de los Estados Unidos sobre nosotros.
No es Cuba la que rompe con Estados Unidos, es Estados Unidos el que rompe con Cuba. No nos olvidemos, fue del 60 para el 61. En el 61 viene el ataque a Playa Girón.
As I've said from the beginning, the operation was a failure, and that the responsibility rests with the White House.
The Bay of Pigs disaster was a military and diplomatic defeat for the new president. Along with Secretary of State Rusk and Secretary of Defense McNamara, he realized that America's prestige had been seriously damaged.
Que fracasaron. Fue la primera derrota del imperialismo en América. Fracasan y el bloqueo se hace férreo. Se extiende como nunca se había hecho en ningún país, hasta medicinas, alimentos, todo.
It is the harshest, most extensive and inhumane embargo that the United States has ever imposed on any country, ever.
Premier Castro needs to be in consultation with his own folks. The people of Cuba want democracy and free markets.
Democracia sí, un bloqueo de esta magnitud. ¿Usted cree que puede ser democracia eso? Pues jamás puede ser democracia.
Que hacen el bloqueo para que haya una democracia. Ellos hacen el bloqueo para apoderarse de algo que no es de ellos.
¿Qué cosa más demócrata y más cosa humanitaria? Que todo ciudadano en el mundo tenga posibilidad de tomar sus medicamentos y curarse, no tener que esperar a hacer remedios caseros.
No, la mayoría del pueblo cubano defiende la revolución y está de acuerdo con esto. Entonces pienso, además aquí el gobierno es el pueblo. Aquí el gobierno es el pueblo porque yo elijo a mi representante en mi barrio, ese me representa, si ese no cumple yo tengo derecho a decir que no cumple y que lo quiten.
Aquí democracia hay demasiado.
Demasiado.
Porque si no hubiera democracia, hubiesen estado dándonos patadas todas.
Ahora mismo,
a
que los
todo
policías
tiempo.
entraban a palo.
¿Me comprende? Democracia sobra aquí. Aquí lo que sobra es que haya un poco de comprensión por los distintos gobiernos, sobre todo por el americano. Para que haya otro sistema, otro medio de vida.
Porque
no
nosotros
es
estamos
ese
aquí,
problema.
nosotros nadie nos...
Aquí usted se acuesta ahí en ese parque a las 12 de la noche y amanece ahí sin problema ninguno. Vaya a otro lado y hágalo a ver si puede hacerlo.
Cuando triunfó la revolución, yo no podía estudiar, no podía continuar estudiando más. Terminó la revolución, triunfó la revolución, comencé a estudiar, hice mi carrera, salí a estudiar al exterior, me preparé para estudiar, trabajo y dirijo en esta escuela, que posiblemente yo no pudiera haberlo hecho antes del triunfo de la revolución. Y pienso que en Cuba el derecho a la salud, el derecho a la educación, es incuestionable para todo el mundo que la educación de ciegos es costosa. Sin embargo, para esta educación el Estado cubano asigna cuantiosos recursos que en definitiva en otros lugares no la asignan. O sea que pienso que nosotros los principales derechos humanos los hemos conquistado.
Más yo quiero saber de dónde son los cantantes, que los encuentro galantes y los quiero conocer, con sus trovas fascinantes que me las quiero aprender.
Bueno, en realidad la CIA ha sido uno de los instrumentos fundamentales en la implementación del bloqueo. Precisamente en 1962, cuando el bloqueo fue decretado, la CIA elaboró diferentes estrategias. Por un lado, se trataba de aniquilar todo el potencial económico, energético, productivo del país mediante sabotajes dirigidos por grupos organizados de Estados Unidos que se infiltraban en Cuba y que tenían la misión de destruir ese potencial energético productivo de nuestro país, mientras que por otro se organizaban operaciones en terceros países para liquidar todas las posibilidades del comercio con Cuba.
That included sabotage, it included efforts to destroy sugar refineries, to burn the cane crops, to assassinate the leadership, a series of different phases of operations against Cuba, including biological warfare, all kinds of things. And these things have been designed to weaken the Cuban Revolution, to make it impossible for them to achieve the goals that they have wanted to achieve and which they have promised the Cuban people that they would achieve.
No se puede obviar el cerco político y no se puede obviar tampoco el bloqueo informativo. Es decir, en estos 35 años solo se ha conocido de Cuba lo que particularmente la CIA ha querido que se conozca.
The Clinton administration believes that 3/4 of the Cuban people listened to this U.S. government broadcast beamed round the clock from Miami.
Y que aunque los cubanos lleguen a la instalación militar,
$40, Washington, $,
TV Marti, which has had an impact in Cuba, has not been as effective as we would have liked. And we have worked with the proper authorities here in the United States to change the way that TV Marti will be broadcasting to Cuba, and it will involve using UHF channels. And we believe this will get to a great many more Cubans, and the message of liberty, freedom, and human rights, we think, will be very clearly sent to the people of Cuba.
Ellos no conocen eso de derechos humanos. La palabra esa en el diccionario de ellos no está. Eso ellos la dicen por decirla, pero no saben el contenido de lo que es derechos humanos de ellos.
Derechos humanos hablan ellos, sí. Sí, el derecho humano de ellos son los aparatos. A bombazo, ¿eh? Así nadie puede tener derecho humano.
In 1989, the expectation was in Miami and elsewhere that Cuba would, of course, collapse because they were so dependent on the former Soviet Union that they couldn't possibly survive, and the Cubans showed that they could, and that they, using aggressive policies, they could find trade, they could get through this period. The right wing began to look for ways to expand the embargo.
There must be no retreat in that policy today.
One of that law's primary sponsors was Congressman Robert Torricelli of New Jersey. Mr. Torricelli, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Your bill has the effect of involving the international community in what is essentially our law, what is essentially bilateral relations.
Well,
How do we claim that right?
We've tried in every way that we could not to interfere with other people's policy judgments.
The Russians were engaged in oil trade with Cuba, which they claimed were commercial. I went to Moscow, pointed out to them that, in fact, it was subsidized. They raised their prices. The Venezuelans were doing the same. We pointed that out to them.
But you will allow that it's in violation of, if not the letter, certainly the spirit of the principles of the GATT
Well, it
agreement?
does have a far reach in the law, which we wanted.
The objective of the United States government has been to overthrow this government, and the objective since Ronald Reagan has been to starve the Cuban people into submission. Now, in a situation like that, where they have lost 80% of their trade because of the collapse of the socialist market, where they have had to use heroic efforts just to feed the population, to survive these last 5 years, to make sure they can keep the hospitals open and the healthcare system running, the country is under siege. It's under an economic siege, if not a military siege.
Lo que más sentimos el bloqueo somos las mujeres, somos las más agredidas por el bloqueo, porque somos las que tenemos el peso de toda la casa, de la familia, del trabajo, encima de nosotros. Las mujeres, nuestra fisiología en realidad es un poco más débil, perdemos por la menstruación calcio, fósforo, hierro, y esas cosas no hay forma de tener vitaminas en este caso para suplir esa falta. Todo eso, o sea, yo pienso que a las mujeres cubanas quien más daño le ha hecho el bloqueo es el daño peor.
A veces no tienen leche y han tenido que inventar, ahora se está inventando una leche de soya para que estos niños puedan tomar leche y se les da nada más que hasta la edad de 7 años, porque lo poco que tenemos busquen la manera de que sean los niños más pequeños. Entonces ya este niño que tiene 9 años y medio no puede coger leche. ¿Y por qué?
Realmente las consecuencias fueron consecuencias drásticas y serias, puesto que se perdió una gran cantidad de nuestros rebaños por escasez de medicamentos, la falta de alimentos básicos. Los animales hoy han ido perdiendo la perspectiva de vida. Nosotros llegamos a lograr como edad tope en nuestro rebaño básico entre 8 y 9 años. Hoy nuestro rebaño no sobrepasa los 4 años.
Yo pienso que es un poco inusual en el sentido de la cantidad de personas que vienen. ¿Entiendes? A partir de hace 4 años acá es mucha mayor la creencia, es mucha mayor la necesidad espiritual. Por eso es que todo el mundo, bueno, viene y echa cualquier cosa, no sé. Anteriormente no era así. Era así, pero no con esa afluencia. Hay una necesidad, por lo menos, de estar tranquilo, de estar en paz y, bueno, seguir pidiendo salud por lo menos para...
Y pienso que, en modo general, el bloqueo está influyendo también en la calidad de la vida espiritual de la población cubana al limitar sus opciones culturales. Nosotros siempre hemos pensado que en el concepto de calidad de la vida, nosotros con la campaña de alfabetización en el año 61 creamos un lector potencial que fue creciendo, que fue superándose, que fue haciéndose más exigente, que fue convirtiendo la lectura en una urgencia, en una necesidad cotidiana. Entonces imagínate la situación de ese lector que en 2 o 3 años ve que las librerías están vacías, ve que prácticamente no tiene materiales para leer, no tiene libros, no tiene textos. Es decir, es una situación verdaderamente dramática. No, yo pienso, con respecto a los artistas jóvenes, que tienen los mismos problemas, dudas, preocupaciones y esperanzas de la juventud en su conjunto de este país. Escritores que no tienen libros, que no pueden publicar sus obras, artistas plásticos que a veces no tienen lienzo, no tienen acrílico, no tienen óleo, grabadores que no tienen los materiales mínimos para grabar, artistas de la danza que no tienen zapatillas, que no tienen vestuario, ¿entiendes? Es decir, es un drama grande.
Le mete las costillas, 8 y arriba, arriba.
Estudiantes de música que no tienen un instrumento musical es extremadamente caro. Extremadamente caro, extremadamente costoso.
Y avisa.
La enseñanza artística, que fue un éxito notable de estos años. Es decir, se creó un sistema de enseñanza artística muy amplio, desde la primaria hasta el nivel superior, en la enseñanza de la música, en la enseñanza de las artes plásticas, en la danza. Entonces tienes grandes talentos que tienen esas limitaciones.
In not being able to buy medicines in the United States and in having to use alternate shipping, since ships cannot dock in U.S. ports for 6 months after they visited Cuba, no one can honestly say that the embargo does not have a direct effect on medicine availability in Cuba.
Nosotros tenemos uno solo en existencia en el policlínico. Es muy antiguo también, porque viene de área capitalista. Es muy necesario para los asmáticos que concurren diariamente aquí por el clima tropical que tenemos nosotros. Sin embargo, solo podemos prestar la atención 1 a 1 porque solamente contamos con un equipo.
Dificultades hay múltiples en lo que es el hospital como tal. Uno de los ejemplos que hemos visto ahora recientemente, bueno, es el problema de los ascensores, de los equipos médicos, del instrumental, de las medicinas. Todo esto lo hacemos y pensamos nosotros que es debido en sí al bloqueo que tenemos. O sea, eran piezas de repuesto, eran equipos que nos venían del exterior, que actualmente no nos pueden entrar en el país y por tanto no tenemos la manera de repararlos y no los tenemos, pero así todo, seguimos trabajando con lo poco que tenemos. Todo lo que es los materiales que se usan en el hospital como tal se producen dentro del mismo hospital, o sea, lo que es apósito, lo que es vendaje, lo que es torundas, lo que es la gasa, o sea, todo eso se realiza, se produce en el hospital, se esteriliza aquí mismo para poder ofertar a la población. Transporte en el hospital tampoco tenemos, o sea, tenemos una pequeña, no tenemos como tal, no tenemos un donativo que nos hizo lo que es la Organización Mundial de la Salud, pero bueno, lo que es ambulancia en sí no tenemos en el hospital.
Atendemos a pacientes en estado de gestación, que son pacientes que por lo general comen con una cantidad de calorías, donde ahora no podemos ofertarle esas calorías porque tenemos dificultad con los alimentos. También nos afecta mucho el problema de la higiene, porque creo que una comida sin higiene, no solamente la comida, sino la preparación de la comida, todo, la cocina debe tener una higiene adecuada. Esto a veces no es posible, producto de que no tenemos el detergente suficiente, las cosas para poder hacerlo, los instrumentos de aseo y limpieza. Esto nos es difícil.
Cuba used to produce virtually all of its own soap on imported goods which are no longer available from the Soviet bloc. The Cuban government went around to several European countries to make commercial arrangements to get those primary products to make soap. And State Department representatives went around behind the Cuban government representatives wherever a commercial agreement was being made and put what I've been told is mafia-style pressure to make it impossible for those countries to trade with Cuba. And in fact, several of those arrangements for the tallow and other soap primary products were broken after they were signed.
The Mexicans are engaged in trade. We've used the opportunity of the last few weeks to impact that.
The result in Cuba is that through the ration one gets 4 small bars of soap per year, completely inadequate amount, making life much more difficult and nothing else for civilians in Cuba. What people have taken to doing is to making their own soap substitutes, like our great-grandparents used to do, with lye, caustic soda, and wood ash. The rate of accidental poisonings in Cuba tripled after the embargo came in, and much of it was related to soap. Because when people make homemade liquid soap substitutes and put them in plain old bottles that are around, or when somebody gets ingenuity and starts making these things and selling them, as is common in small towns now in Cuba, they sit around and little kids get a hold of them and accidentally think there's something else and drink them. Esophageal burns causing constrictures is a terrible thing for anybody at any age to have to go through. But that's just what happens if you drink caustic soda or lye. A pediatrician in the United States or a pediatrician in Cuba up till a couple of years ago could go their whole professional life and see maybe one case or maybe only hear of one case. And in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been about a dozen cases a week. There are several medicines in the world that are only produced in the United States. One of those medicines is the only curative medicine for a certain kind of pediatric leukemia. And there is only one manufacturer in the world since it's under patent. It's new medicine. In many developing countries, a child with leukemia wouldn't get sophisticated treatment. It wouldn't make a difference if that medicine were not available to them. In Cuba, virtually all children needing sophisticated treatment, and certainly a curative treatment for a life-threatening illness, would get it. And in fact, Cuba had been purchasing this medicine through U.S. subsidiaries in other countries. It costs, I think, about $20,000 per case, but that is not seen as an excessive cost in the country, even without a lot of money, which has given such high priority to both children and health. Since the 1992 Democracy Act, that medicine is no longer available in Cuba, and there is no substitute from any other manufacturer in the world. I know that Representative Torricelli's office was presented with this information, that it was a result of his law that that medicine became unavailable.
There are those who believed several years ago that it would not be possible in this Congress to strengthen the Cuban embargo.
They actually stated that, of course, Cuba can purchase this medicine from that manufacturer. I have a physician friend in Florida who stated that he was personally treating a Cuban child with this kind of pediatric leukemia who called that manufacturer in the United States, called subsequently their export division, called their lawyers, worked their way through the whole system. And after 2 weeks of attempting to purchase this medicine, was told by that manufacturer that it was not available for sale and would not be available for sale if the sale was for export to Cuba. That child died.
This is a difficult choice for any member of Congress. None of us want to contribute to the suffering of the Cuban people.
Yo le diría que eso es una mentira piadosa, porque a la vez que usted le limita a un niño su alimentación que necesita, ¿qué más bloqueo que hice? Es una cosa inhumana.
They're trying to affect Cuba's strength, which is the Cuban people. They're trying to affect the politics of Cuba through the stomachs and through the health of the Cuban people. There's no question that they're trying to make not only the economy scream, but the population of that country scream.
Can you imagine what would happen in the United States if our economy retracted by 50%? I mean, it would be utter chaos. This society has held together. They're suffering. There are all sorts of scarcities, but they have held together. Of course, there's growing disgruntlement, but I see no signs at all of collapse.
A society that offers free medical care for its people, provides free education, and that has provided homes for the people, wiped out homelessness, and essentially the kind of burning poverty we see in our cities should be celebrated, not condemned.
What is Cuba right now? Cuba is a country that has an average education of 10 grades in its whole population, when Latin America average is 5 grades. Having 2% of the population of Latin America and the Caribbean, we have 9% of the whole population of scientists and researchers of Latin America and the Caribbean. Being a developing country, we have an infant mortality rate, the best in the third world, the best in Latin America, and even better than Washington, D.C. We have a life expectancy of 75 years. The causes of death in Cuba are not infectious diseases, the same causes that here in a developed country. That is something we must preserve, all what we have achieved in the social development of our country.
Every other government in the world regards our Cuba policy as some sort of a bizarre obsession. They can't understand it. They don't know what it's all about, and I don't either.
Que no solamente nosotros tenemos el bloqueo, sino los empresarios norteamericanos también están bloqueados, porque ya esto del ser mixto entre español y cubano, el hombre ha invertido aquí tan lejos, mientras tanto que ellos podían ver invertido aquí.
In 1993, third quarter of 93, more and more U.S. businesses started to take an interest in Cuba. That was really the first time that the interest crystallized. In 1994, beginning in March, was the Rangel hearing, and what was conducted by New York Representative Charlie Rangel. That ended up being the largest ever congressional hearing on issues related to Cuba.
And now it appears that we're waiting for them to overthrow Castro. That's not going to happen. What they're going to do is overthrow Miami if we don't do something about it.
Among other companies that appeared or provided testimony were Carlson Companies, one of the the eighth largest privately held company in the United States, Radisson Hotels, TGI Friday Restaurants, Radisson Cruise Lines, 4,000 travel agents worldwide. They came out and they said, U.S. policy mistake, we're losing out. We had AT&T, LDDS, United Technologies, RKO Pictures, and then in the penny here with Archer Daniels Midland. And the numbers are just rapidly increasing, and the Chamber of Commerce has been public for quite some time.
When 101 countries vote against our policy, and only one country, Israel, votes with us in the UN, and Israel trades with Cuba. In other words, we are totally isolated on this.
United Kingdom companies, Canadian companies, Mexican companies, they're all basically saying, rather publicly, this is probably one of the few remaining countries in the world where we have an opportunity to get in first before the U.S. does. Unfortunately for the United States, Cuban officials have taken the position that while they would like to engage the U.S. business community, they're not waiting. They can't wait.
We are a nation. We want to remain a nation. We want to be independent. We want to be sovereign. We want to decide our future. And on those bases, we want to be friends of the United States as we are friends of many other countries on the basis of equality of rights of both nations. That's the whole problem, to recognize the right of the Cuban nation, of the Cuban people to be like we want to be.
Anybody witnessing the impact of these measures of shortages of medicine, of shortage of food, of the impact on the daily lives of the Cuban people, has a moral responsibility. Has a moral responsibility to try to change this policy, which is inhumane, which is cruel, which has no moral justification. And as citizens of the United States, I think we have an obligation to change this policy. We do not have any right to impose on the Cuban people what they don't want.
President Clinton, you should know. The blockade has got to go. President Clinton, you should know. Blockade has got to go.
There is a growing movement in this country of people who are opposed to our government's policy toward Cuba, and that we're willing to travel hundreds and thousands of miles to come and stand here at the seat of political power, at the doors of the White House, and add our voice to the rising number of people across this nation, across the globe, who are interested in seeing an end to the U.S. economic blockade of Cuba.
It was an African who said that Cuba is the only foreign nation that has come to Africa and gone away from Africa with nothing but the coffins of its sons and daughters who shed their blood in support of the struggles of Africa.
adentro, monte adentro, monte adentro.